Welcome students to this lab. In this lab, we will discuss an important topic of this class, which is pointers. What are pointers? Pointers are basically variables that are used to store the memory address of other variables. That is, you can store the address of other variables you declare in your program in a pointer. Just like in real world, if you want point to something, or let's say someone asks you where is the pen, you says it is on the table. So you are basically pointing to the table that the pen resides there. So that analogy also applies in programming. Let's suppose you declare a variable int is equal to 5, and now you want to know the address of this variable, where this variable resides in the memory. So in C++, see the address of any variable, this operator and is used whenever you will write like cout the address of a is, we will write here and a. So when you will execute this code of line of code, it will print the memory address of variable a. So now we will look how pointers can be used in a function. Earlier in this course you have studied the function and you pass the arguments to the function, and remember we were passing the arguments as the actual values. Like if we wanted to add two numbers like the 1 and 3, so we passed the actual values like 1 and 3. We didn't pass any reference. So that is a one way to do that, and we call it pass by value. That is, we were passing actual value. So what was the drawback of that? If you pass the value pass by value, if we do pass by value, so we can then we must return the updated values of that variables, or we should use global variable so that the changes made in certain function can be seen in a main function. This is that we have to use the global variables. But what if I don't want to use the global variable, or I don't want to return anything from the function? So for that matter, we have to use pass by reference, that is passing the address of that variable in which pass oh sorry let's look at into the code. Here I have declared three variables, which is var1, var2 and var3, and we now need to know the address of these three variables. So I have put here an and symbol with variable 1, variable 2 and variable 3. So this will give me the address of these three variables. When I will execute this program, so it should print out the addresses of these three variables. Now you can see that here are the hexadecimal values, which are essentially the addresses of these three variables in the memory. You can see these are the variables with only difference of 4 between them. Like C, after C we have 8, after 8 we have 4. That means each integer variable takes 4 bytes in memory, so they are stored with a gap of 4 bytes. So now this is how we can print the variable address of the variable in C++. Now what if we want to store these variable this addresses in a variable? So if I write simply int a is equal to and var 1, so it should, if we talk about general programming practices, it should not give us any error, and it should print the address. If I print a, but let's see what it now. See, it's giving us an invalid conversion from int static to int. So that means we cannot store the address in a simple variable. What we need to do that? For that matter, we use pointers. So in order to incorporate pointers, let's look at the code in the below section. So here's code I've already written. For the sake of time, let's try this. So here I have declared a variable 5. Now I have declared a pointer variable. Note that the difference between normal variable and pointer variable is that static symbol. In C++, we use a static to declare a pointer variable. Now I have declared a simple variable, I have declared a pointer variable. Now when I will assign the address of this variable to this pointer variable, it will not give me any error, and it will simply print the value of, first it will print the value of this variable, then it will print the address of this variable with and var. Now if I will print point var, which is a pointer variable which contains the address of this var variable, so it will print the address of that variable. So the output of these two statements will be the same. And if we want to print the value stored in the particular address using the pointer variable, we will simply put a static pointer here. So let's run this code and see what's the output. So first I simply printed the variable var, so which is giving us the output 5, and then I printed and var, which gave us the output, the address of that variable var. Now I then assigned point var is equal to end. Now this pointer variables is also printing the same address. That means the address is assigned to the pointer variable, and at the end, if we want to print the value or stored in the pointer variable, or the pointer variable is pointing to, we can simply put static pointer in order to print the value of that position. So it's printed 5. This is how print this is how pointers work in C++. So now we will look how we can change the value of a variable using the pointers. If I want to change the value of a var variable, I could simply do var is equal to 7. So it will change the value 5 to 7. But I need pointers to do this. What pointer will do? Pointer will go to the specified memory address and change the content placed at that memory location. So what I will do, I will create simply a pointer variable. I will assign the address of this integer variable to the pointer variable. Now this is simple printing. I'm printing the value of the variable. I'm printing the address. I'm printing the value the pointer variable is pointing at. Now I want to change the variable value. So one way simply, as I said, could be variable is equal to 7. The other way could be I can change simply using pointer variable. So remember I said static pointer is the value of that memory location. So I will do simply static point variable is equal to 16. So it will now change the value placed at that memory location to the 16. So when I will execute this code, this will print 5, 7 and 16. Look, initially In our program we had declared it 5, and when we printed using the pointer variable it displayed as the 5. Now we change the value to 7 in traditional way without using the pointers. You can see both the values are updated to 7, and then we change the value using pointer variable and it gives us the same result. So in short, we can change the value of the variable using pointers as well. What you need to remember is that in order to print the address of a variable, you have to use this operator and print the value pointed by the certain pointer. We need asterisk to print the value, and in order to declare the pointer variable, syntax is int static temp, static temp or int static temp. Both can be used. So this is the basic introduction to the pointers. Okay, now let's look at pointers usage in arrays, like how pointers can be useful in arrays. And so let's start. So pointers not only store the address to the single variable, it can also store the address of an array. So for that matter the syntax will remain the same. Like here you can see I've declared an array of integer with length 5. Then I have a pointer variable type integer. Note that if you want to point a variable of integer type, you should make the pointer type integer. If you want a pointer to point to a float variable, so you should make the pointer of type float. So you should change the data types accordingly the variable you are pointing to. Now in previous case we made a variable and we assigned the address of that variable using AND operator to the pointer variable, but now here you can see I've just written the pointer is equal to the name of the array, which is ARR. I haven't put any AND operator here. You must be wondering why it is so. So the reason behind that is the name of the array is a pointer to the itself. So essentially the name of array is a pointer which holds the address of whole array. So when I write pointer is equal to array, that means I'm assigning a pointer to a pointer. So this variable contains the address of a whole array, so it will be automatically transferred to the pointer. Now what if I want to print the address of first element? So I will write address of first element and I will write ARR 0. So when I will execute this code, it will display the error of it will display the address of first element. Now if I want to print it using the pointer variable, that is ptr, what I need to do is I will simply print cout and I will place here simple ptr, because remember ptr holds the address of first element. So when I'll print that, it will give us the same address. So using the pointers we don't need this variable to print the address, because pointer variable itself holds the address. Now if I want to print the value stored in the array, so what I will do, I will simply, in traditional way, I will write array of 0. This will print the variable of first element, value of the first element. but I want it to print using pointer, so I will write static pointer. So when I will execute this, it will give me the value 1 1 because the first element of the array is 1. Here you can see that. Now if I want to print the value of third element, that is 3, so I will simply write it 2. But what about the pointers? So pointers also do the same. I will put a bracket here and I will write ptr plus, so it's this on the third index, that means 0 plus 2, so I will write 2 here. So when I execute the code, it will print the value of 3 3. So you can change this offset accordingly to the value of your choice. Now let's move on and try it in a loop. So I have already written a code here. This also conveys the same concept I did above. So I'm displaying the addresses of the array using this operator, which I already shown you here. Then I am using it using the pointer variable ptr plus I. Above I wrote 2 explicitly, but here I have written I, which is iterating over 0 1 and 2, so it will automatically iterate over the complete array. So when I will run this code, this will display the error because I have declared the array 2 times. So let's comment this out and run it again. So now you can see that we have used pointers and simple variables to print the address of the array indexes. So these are the same. Next, we want to use the pointer or the array name as a pointer. As I said, the name of the array is already a pointer. So here the same concept is used to print the value of the array. So I have written here float array. I made an array of float type and I'm taking the input in that array. Now remember I said the name of the array is pointer, so I can use this static symbol because we can use it with the pointer. So without using any indexing sort of thing, like if I write C in array of I, so it will take the input in array. But if I write using the pointer like this, it will also do the same job. So we will go with this approach using the pointers. Now I can also print here like cout ARR of I. This will also print the same content in the array, like, and it will also print the same content, but the difference will be just the array or the pointers we are using here. So it's ARR. Now enter 5 numbers 1 2 3 4 5. Now you can see it's printing 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4 5 5. So the content is same, but the way of doing it is different. You can use pointer to exploit the array. Next we will look the use of pointers in function, how we can use the pointers and how they are useful in functions. Now we will look at the usage of pointers in function, how we can use pointers in a function. Earlier in this course you have learned functions and how we can pass arguments to the functions. What we were doing was we were passing the actual values to the function. That is, if I wanted to add two numbers 1 and 2, I was passing 1 and 2 explicitly, and to get the result or updated values of these variables I had to return the the variables, or I had to use the global variables. in order to get rid of the global variables or to return the value, we can use another concept of C++ programming, or you can say programming, that is pass by reference. Earlier what we were doing was that was pass by value. That was we were actually passing the values of the variables. Now what we can do is we can pass the variables by their reference. By reference I mean we can access the variable according based on their memory address. So we were manipulating the address of the variables to do certain job. Now if I want to swap two numbers, so if I use the old approach, that is pass by value, and I don't return anything or I don't use any global variable, so you will see that the result before swapping and after swapping would be the same, because anything that happened in this function will had the scope within this function. So swapping has been done in the function, but we didn't return any value or we didn't change any value globally. So that's why the result is same. So now I will pass these arguments as reference. That is, I will take their addresses. So I will put this operator here and this operator here. So remember, now we are not using any pointers here. We are just simply passing the variables and retrieving their addresses. Now if I will run this code, it will do the swapping without returning. So why this is the case? Now you can see A has 2, B has 1. So why this happened? Actually what happened is when you pass by reference, you are actually accessing the memory address of that variable in which this value is stored. So you go to that address, update the value and get back. So eventually you are updating in a global context. You are actually changing the value stored in a particular memory location. But when you pass by value, you are just changing the value, not at that memory location, because here the scope of the variables are changed. The scope of A and B is here if you pass by value. Here A and B cannot be accessible. There we have different variables, that is n1 and n2. So for that matter we have to use pass by reference to access the address of A and B. Then we have to change the address of A and B. Now this is done. Now what if we want to use it using pointers? So passing by reference can be done using pointers as well. Remember, I was only passing the values here and retrieving the address here. But now what I will do, I will pass the address of A and B from here, and I will get the address here and I will manipulate that address on the pointer. So since I am passing the address, so I need a pointer variable here. So you can see I have changed the definition of the function from int n1 to int static n1 int static n2. Now since we have the addresses here, so in order to get the value of these addresses we should use a static operator. So static n1 will give us the value stored in particular address. Similarly n2 will give us the value stored on that particular location. Once the swapping is done, it will store the updated value on that particular address, and the particular address will be value of the particular address will be updated. As a result, we will get the swapped values. So here you can see it's 1 and 2 and 2 and 1. So that's how pass by reference and pass by value works. So that's it from the pointers concept. Next we will discuss 2D arrays and strings.